Some of the world's top sprinters gathered for the 59th edition of Eschborn-Frankfurt. Sam Bennett looking for his first win since returning to Bora Hansgrohe. Fernando Gaviria, who dropped out of the Tour de Romandie to be here. Eritrea's hero Binyam Girmay and his teammate Alexander Kristoff, the record 4-time winner, as well as the defending champion Jasper Philipsen of Eschborn-Frankfurt. Well, Eschborn-Frankfurt returning to its usual spot on May Day after last year's September edition. Very little change in the route, still over 3,000 metres of climbing in the Taunus Hills, no fewer than 4 climbs up the famous Mammelshain. Crucially though, the final climb tops out with 40 kilometres to go, and that's why this one so often ends up in a bunch sprint. A shade under 184 kilometres to be covered in total. Well, the former 2-time winner Fabian Wegmann got the May Day party started here, and the breakaway formed quicker than you could say Radklassiker. 5 riders going up the road straight away and no reaction from the peloton. Johan Mains from the Bingo Al Paul Sources team, Pierre Rolland from B&B Hotels, Juan Antonio Lopez Cozar from Burgos BH, Dan Hall from Trek Segafredo, and Jens Reinders from Sport Vlaanderen Bauwase. Bora Hansgrohe, the only German team in the race, were on the front of the peloton as they rolled over the finish line for the first time on the day. 19 teams in the race, 11 from the World Tour and 131 riders. The front 5 soon had a gap of over 3.5 minutes. But Bahrain Victorious and Alpecin Fenix were helping out at the front of the peloton with the pacemaking, so they never got too far up the road, and things kind of remaining in a holding pattern as they went up the Feldberg, the first climb of the day and the longest climb of the day at 11 kilometres. The sprint teams, though, were making it abundantly clear that they had this one under total control. The 5 men up at the front seeing their advantage gradually whittled down. Bora Hansgrohe are still doing a lot of work at the front with Alpecin Fenix, Team DSM as well, working for local rider John Degenkolb, winner of this race back in 2011 and second behind Jasper Philipsen last year. Well, Degenkolb and Alexander Kristoff had spoke about there being opportunities for riders to get away and get on the attack, especially in these Taunus Hills, so they were keeping a very, very close eye on things at the front of the peloton. And by the time they hit the Mammelshain for the second time, the gap was down to 1 minute and 45 seconds. Still 90 kilometres to cover and the peloton closing fast. Fantastic to see the fans back on the side of the road for the first time since 2019 with all the COVID restrictions. And Degenkolb in particular getting plenty of love. His name written on the road here. Plenty of Eritrean fans out as well. You could just see the Eritrean flag there, as well as a whole gaggle of them at the finish line. John Degenkolb there, alongside Niels Pollitt. All these big sprint favourites staying together. And then there was finally a little bit of action in the main bunch. An upping of the tempo here from Intermarché. And then Jonas Rutsch going on the attack. He'd promised that he would do that. The rider from Hesse, the local rider, who's finished on the podium here in the under-23 race and several of the youth races as well. The attack came to nothing, but the injection of pace dropped the breakaway's advantage. And in the end, Pierre Rolland ended up as the sole survivor from the original breakaway. Just upping the tempo on this climb and going on the attack, the 2-time Tour de France stage winner. The peloton easing off and allowing him to pull 15 or 20 seconds clear. And the Frenchman would eventually find an ally in Jonas Rutsch, who went on the attack for a second time. 2 then becoming 5 once again as Reinders bridged back across with Trek Segafredo's Ed Turns and Cyril Dessau from Bingo Al Paul Sources. They did give it a good go. Rutsch in particular in the pink colours was looking very lively indeed, but there were simply too many strong teams in the peloton who wanted the bunch sprints. Onto the 2 final climbs of the Mammelshain then, with the breakaway splintering apart. And the fast men were being kept out of trouble. Jasper Philipsen got dropped last year before coming back to win, but no such danger for him in 2022. Turns, Rutsch and Rolland still fighting. And remarkably, after being dropped twice, Jens Reinders got back to the front for a 3rd time. He was already on the attack at the recent Paris-Roubaix and Flèche-Wallonne, and he would be the last man standing as they hit the final climb of the Mammelshain, the 8th and final climb of the day. Keep an eye on this 23-year-old Belgian, perhaps a rider for the future. Binyam Girmay up towards the front of the peloton then, as they finally made the catch, saying goodbye to the Taunus Hills and making their way back into town. There were to be no late attacks, the sprint teams keeping things tight on their way back into the financial hub that is Frankfurt, and then it was time for the fast men to earn the big bucks. hurtling into this final left-hander. Biniam Gumar was right up there, looking to set things up for Alexander Kristoff. Kristoff third wheel, but then it was Bora Hansgrohe who went. Danny van Poppel with a fantastic lead out here for Sam Bennett. Incredible power from the Dutchman. Over to the Irishman then. Sam Bennett going for the line. He had Fernando Gaviria trying to get there. Alexander Kristoff trying to come as well, but it was Sam Bennett who won Eschborn-Frankfurt. Bennett is back, taking his first win since returning to Bora Hansgrohe. And it was done in some style as well by Bora Hansgrohe, the only German team in the race. A wonderful lead out from Danny van Poppel. Bennett finished it off for his 57th career victory and his first in almost a year after that acrimonious split with Quick Step.
Yeah, all the guys were fantastic, and Danny especially really timed the lead out to perfection, and yeah, brought me inside 200 to go, and with a lot of speed, and yeah, I had really good legs as well. But I just want to thank the team, and yeah, I'm super happy with the result, and especially German team in German race. It's fantastic to get the win for them.
Bennett takes it from Gaviria, Kristoff and Bauhaus, his lead-out man Van Poppel in 5th, and then Ed turns after all his efforts in the breakaway, De Lee, Consonni, Allegart and Mansin. But it was all about Sam Bennett today, and based on this evidence, there'll be plenty more success for him in 2022.